It's time now for County-Wide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's County-Wide.
Well, good day and welcome to the program. It is County-Wide, and we're happy to have you with us today. Our guest, Mick Woodcock, is the Chief Curator at the Sharlot Hall Museum in Prescott. If you've never been, you gotta go. It's one of those things, Mick and I were just kind of chatting, that I lived here many years before I visited Sharlot Hall, and I've been back many times since because it'll have that kind of play on you. There is so much to see, so many points of interest kind of contained in this gorgeous 2, 3, 4, 5 acre?
It's about 2 3/4 acres.
Seems bigger.
Yeah, it does.
But welcome to the program, first of all. But the Sharlot Hall campus, right there, just up from downtown Prescott. I mean, right, really in the middle of everything.
2 blocks west of the Courthouse Plaza.
You step onto the property, and all of a sudden you're back, you know, to some years ago when our state and our city were founded there. But let's talk about. There's a number of things that we'll chat about as Chief Curator. Can I get just a taste of your background, if we can? You've been with Sharlot Hall some time.
34 years.
That's a while.
Graduate of the University of Arizona. I'm from Tucson originally.
Okay. Well, you must like what you do.
I do.
To be doing it that long.
Yeah, it's fun.
What is Chief Curator? That sounds like you're probably in charge of a lot. Tell me what that means.
Well, my main job is the care of the object collections, which is approaching about 40,000 objects.
Oh.
But I head up the Living History interpretive program, and I head up exhibits, and I wear a number of hats.
Sure.
I should have brought some hats today.
We would have kind of expected that. Now, when you say interpretive, what do you mean by that? Give me a taste of Mick's day.
Mick's day. Mick comes in and reads all his spam email.
Like all of us.
Yeah, so some days it's all collections, and we have volunteers that help us process. We have to inventory. We have to, we're in the process of digitizing the entire collection. It's all photographed, but it's old technology. And so we're bringing that up to date. We've got a new storage area that we're about to put shelving in. Then we've got our festival season is coming in June. We start out with Folk Arts Fair, and then we've got the Living History program, the Arizona History Adventure, which starts this Saturday. Right.
That I want to spend some time on here in just a moment. Let me tell our listeners, our TV viewers, Sharlot.org. Now, remember Sharlot Hall. Sharlot was a real person, and that name was spelled, and the museum's name is spelled Sharlot.
Correct.
A little different than maybe the more common spelling of the girl's name, Sharlot. But Sharlot.org is the website, so take a look there, and 445-3122 is the phone number to find out about the many things that are always just kind of cooking at the Sharlot Hall Museum. I want to back up a tiny bit. You said some 40,000 items. When we talk about items, what are you talking about?
Objects. Well, we've got we've got a repository collection, which contains stuff picked up off of public land. Whenever they widen a road or do something like that, they have to do an archaeological survey, and that material has to live someplace. So we're a repository for kind of central Arizona. It can be broken metates, it can be rusty tin cans, it can be projectile points, it could be almost anything.
And the idea of doing that is you just never know the value of something that you might find in that way.
That's correct. And sometimes archaeologists want to come back and study a particular site, and so the material's available to them. They can come in, and we'll set them up in our lab, and they can look through the boxes and do what they need to do.
Has there been, I'm sure during, your 34 years there, a road's been going in or a foundation's being poured and this process is done and it's a eureka moment. Can you recall somewhere where something really interesting was?
The biggie for us was when they put the parking garage in Prescott.
Okay.
And they were putting it in where in an area that was part of Chinatown for us, and also the red light district.
Okay.
And so when they started digging and pulling stuff out, there was just a wealth of material on the Chinese and the prostitutes in Prescott. It just, you know, it caused us to go in and study, and we actually created an exhibit out of it that was really popular.
Sure, sure. When are we talking big objects, small? I mean, just
well, the biggest
things that all probably taken collectively show a real picture. Is that how this works?
Yeah. For the parking lot dig, the biggest thing was a wheelbarrow, which had gone into a well as part of filling it up, all the way down to buttons, and there were some Chinese gaming tokens. There were just a lot of small stuff, bottles and buttons and things like that.
And without, it seems like without, is this like a law in Arizona, or?
It's a federal law.
A federal law, okay,
federal
for the entire country, for
yes,
everybody?
Right.
So if you're going to go in and do something like this, and you're going to excavate like an area that was known to house something in the past?
Well, no, it just, this applies to what is referred to as public land, so it's either federal, state, county, municipal. It's mandatory that there has to be at least someone qualified has to walk over the ground.
Okay.
For housing developments, you still should do that.
Right.
The rules are a little more lax, but yeah, they have to jump through those hoops. And of course, if there are human remains found, then the state museum is called, and then there has to be excavation and recovery and repatriation of the remains and the things that are associated with it.
And we've heard about that from time to time, and I'm going to sound like goofy. I was unaware of any of this. You'll hear from time to time someone's building and have found some potentially very valuable, say, Native American artifacts somewhere. We hear about that. I didn't know that it was routine that those kinds of steps are taken to assure that if something's recovered, that it's taken care of the right way. Yes. And I certainly didn't know Sharlot Hall played such a big role in that locally. So if, say they're going to build a garage like that, or some big project, say in Cottonwood, is Sharlot Hall involved there, or is that done more on a local basis?
Well, what happens is they have to contract with an archaeological recovery company that does this, and then they get a contract with a repository, so it would be us, or in this area, us or MNA, Museum of Northern Arizona, and there has to actually be a contract in place as to where the material is going to go.
Gotcha. Okay. I don't know if I nudged you off subject, but that fascinates me. I didn't know that that's how it kind of worked. Like I say, you hear about these things being found, and it doesn't occur that there's a very specific process for it, and how some of these incredible finds are made. And then, as you said, it ended up being such a discovery with the parking garage that a whole exhibit was created from that. Yeah. Interesting, Mick. We'll take a break. When we come back, talk more with Mick Woodcock from Sharlot Hall Museum, the Arizona History Adventure Series that he talked about. We'll talk more about it in our second segment after this.
Move over, AZ. Arizona's move over law requires you to move over or slow down when you drive past any vehicle pulled over with flashing lights. Any vehicle means emergency responders, roadside assistance, law enforcement, highway crews, even stranded motorists. Ignore the law and you could pay a fine. Remember, every vehicle, every time. Move over, AZ.
Sponsored by ADOT in partnership with the Arizona Broadcasters Association and this station.
Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys are much too much. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We're going to beat them and bust them.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Let's get a little bit rowdy. R-O-W-D-Y.
Take time to be a dad today. Call or visit fatherhood.gov to learn more.
Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
Here in northern Arizona and throughout Yavapai County, people count on Orkin Pest Control. With over 100 years of combined experience, nobody knows how to protect your home or your business from harmful or annoying pests like the Orkin Man. To start service, contact your Northern Arizona Orkin Pest Control. In the Verde Valley, call 567-5100 or Orkin Pest Control in the Prescott area at 77.
Welcome back to the program Countywide, and Mick Woodcock is here. Mick's the chief curator at the Sharlot Hall Museum. That's charlotte.org and 445-3122. Paul David, our news director, sent a good question in, and he said simply, what is kind of the gem of the Sharlot Hall? What is there one item or exhibit or what have you that is just, that's the showpiece, that's what people come to see?
Gosh. Well, probably the icon, since we're a collection of buildings, I hate to say it, but a petting zoo for old buildings, but the governor's mansion, which is this giant log cabin that was built there in 1864. And
it's the first building we went into.
Yeah, and it's an imposing structure.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest small artifact is the stagecoach, which was originally down in Tombstone, but it, when it was built originally, had gone to California, so it had been around. Big Modoc, biggest stagecoach Abbott and Downing made. And then we've got a new exhibit on prehistoric people, on the Clovis man and archaic hunters and early agriculture, and the first folks to actually come to Arizona. Yeah. So most folks, as we had talked about earlier, are from someplace else. I mean, these folks were really from someplace else.
Now, it's interesting, and I know that you've got to understand what I'm saying. Sometimes we tend to think of history as it happened, it's in the book, that's the way it was. And somebody with your perspective is going to say, no, we're learning all the time new things, and previous conceptions were wrong and previous ideas and so on. Is that true at Sharlot Hall? Do you find new things?
Oh, yes, all the time. Yeah, we're always doing research.
Yeah. Well, tell me about, you were talking about some of the, I don't know if primitive man is the right word.
Well, yeah, it's Stone Age, basically, man.
Okay, so primitive,
real primitive, 10,000, 11,000, 12,000 years ago. And then we're actually going to, hopefully next year sometime, open a part of the exhibit that has our prehistoric animals that lived here. We've got mastodon and mammoth and camel and bison, things that people don't associate with the New World that actually lived here, and we've got the bones.
It's interesting that it seems like sometimes, you mentioned the stagecoach, and it's interesting because I think people that visit, Arizona, say from the Midwest or the East Coast or what have you, elsewhere around the country, you think of the West as the West, and you think of John Wayne, and you think of that really kind of a narrow slice of history when you kind of think about it, kind of a few years before and after the Civil War and those times. But when you talk about primitive man, you talk about prehistoric animals that roamed here, it really, to me, shows that the museum, Sharlot Hall, is very much focused on really getting a bigger photo of this whole, of all of it.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
The big picture. And that's got to take some real effort and real doing.
Well, it does. And Sandra Lynch, who's our curator of anthropology, that's her slice of the pie has been this early prehistory, and she's working right now on an exhibit script that will feature Prescott culture and the ties with the Verde Valley and with Flagstaff and with the Phoenix area, the trade routes and things like that. So we're always working on stuff.
It's interesting. We've had many folks kind of from different museums and with an ear toward history, an ear and an eye toward history here. And one fella, and I can't remember his name offhand, was just talking about the time that it took to travel from Flagstaff to Prescott, back in those days. And you just don't think about it anymore.
No.
You pop on your air conditioner and your radio and you zoom down there and you're back at the end of the day. But it was a different time for sure. Talk to me about the Arizona History Adventure Series. Now this is kicking off here real soon.
Yeah, this Saturday, 10 to 3. It's what's live interpretation. So we'll have costumed interpreters from around 1870, and what this is part of the programming this year is underwritten with the help of the Arizona Humanities Council. Okay. And so this very first program Saturday is called an Agrarian Society, and we'll be looking at where people got their food in frontier territorial Arizona, because most of it
mashes. Didn't they get into mashes?
Yeah, no, and that's kind of the myth that we're going to debunk, is the fact that if it wasn't grown locally, chances are you didn't eat it.
Yeah.
And so we're going to feature bread baking, but we've got a couple of milling stones from a grain grinding mill that was local, and wheat was being grown locally, and corn, and these things were actually being grown locally and being advertised. Buy locally, don't be buying this stuff brought in from other places, whether it was California or New Mexico or even Tucson.
Yeah, pushing local market.
Yeah, local market.
When we talk about, now we don't, you think of Arizona, you think of wheat fields, you think of what, Kansas.
Yes.
And that seems like something that would be very, very hard to grow, just as an example, in Arizona. But it happened.
Right. Well, what they're, in Kansas, they get enough rain. Here, early on, they're harnessing the rivers. They're doing irrigation. And so most of the local stuff right around Prescott was coming out of the Agua Fria.
Okay. And so even from the earliest times, water was the key to the whole darn deal.
Absolutely, and without water, Arizona would have about 50 people living in it.
I want to, because this program that we're doing right at this moment will repeat, I want to say that May 11th is, you mentioned May this 11th, Saturday, and as we do our show, that comes up on May 11th. Now this will be available, if I can't get there this Saturday on May 11th, I can come through the end of summer? Or?
Yes, we're doing it the second Saturday of every month is the Arizona History Adventure. It'll run May through November.
Okay. Through November.
Through November. So
okay.
Yeah, and the theme is different every month. Okay. So you won't get the same programming. One of the big features this Saturday will be bread baking. So we'll take it from, the starter all the way through the finished product. We'll bake some bread in our cast iron range in our ranch house.
Okay. Slice off a piece for me.
Yeah.
Well, you got to be.
That's right. I'll eat your piece.
Okay. All right. That's a deal. Let's take another short break. We'll come back. We'll chat some more. Mick Woodcock is the chief curator at the Sharlot Hall Museum. Again, charlotte.org, and more with Mick when we come back to Countywide.
Move over, AZ. Arizona's move over law requires you to move over or slow down when you drive past any vehicle pulled over with flashing lights. Any vehicle means emergency responders, roadside assistance, law enforcement, highway crews, even stranded motorists. Ignore the law and you could pay a fine. Remember, every vehicle, every time. Move over, AZ.
Sponsored by ADA in partnership with the Arizona Broadcasters Association and this station.
We got the spirit, we're hot, we can't be stopped. We got the spirit, we're hot, we can't be stopped. We're gonna beat them and bust them.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Let's get a little bit rowdy, R-O-W-D-Y.
Take time to be a dad today. Call or visit fatherhood.gov to learn more.
Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
Here in northern Arizona and throughout Yavapai County, people count on Orkin Pest Control. With over 100 years of combined experience, nobody knows how to protect your home or your business from harmful or annoying pests like the Orkin Man. To start service, contact your Northern Arizona Orkin Pest Control. In the Verde Valley, call 567-5100 or Orkin Pest Control in the Prescott area at 775-8772.
Welcome back to the program. It is Countywide, kind of our final segment here with Mick Woodcock. And as happens so often when we talk history, I could just sit here all morning and chat with you. But we don't have the time for that. The best way to find out what Mick's talking about on some of these exciting programs is to visit the Sharlot Hall Museum. Your first step toward doing that could be to give him a call if you have questions, or go online, charlotte.org. Facebook is a good way.
Yeah, follow us on Facebook.
Yeah, find out, keep yourself posted on what's happening there. Mick's email is mick@charlotte.org. If you have maybe a question about some of the programs that are coming up, drop Mick a line and find out. Don't miss out, I guess, is the message here. In our final a couple of minutes, there's some more. Of course, there's more happening that you wanted to share with.
There's always more happening because we're getting, it's warming up. We're getting into our season. So not only do we have the Arizona History Adventure on the second Saturday of every month, but at the third Saturday out at our Fort Whipple Museum, which is on the Veterans Administration Hospital campus, we've got the Frontier Arizona Experience, and that's in 2 Saturdays, and we'll have a big program. It'll feature the Ordnance Department, so we've got firearms. We've got a guy that's bringing up Gatling guns from Phoenix.
Wow.
It's good, and that's a free museum. That's by donation only. So, and then first weekend of June, we've got Folk Arts Fair, which is a family-oriented festival. We've got a lot of things for kids to do.
Okay.
Living History will be running. So, and we got a lot. And then Prescott Indian Art Market is the second weekend in July.
Okay.
So plenty to do, plenty to see in Prescott, and of course when it's 90 degrees in the valley here, it's 80 in Prescott. So.
It's a great summertime retreat. Pack a picnic basket or enjoy one of the restaurants, very walking distance, very close by.
A number of them.
And and you really can't go wrong. It's people travel. It always amazes me from literally across the world.
Yes.
To come to our area and enjoy some of these things, and too many of us, I think, that live locally don't take the time or find the time, make the time to go and do some of these things. And Sharlot Hall Museum is a great way to start. Again, charlotte.org, and one more time, that's SHARLOT.org, 445-3122, and Mick@charlotte.org if you want to drop an email to our guest, our friend today. Sir, thank you. It's been an education. This has been fun.
Brad, thank you so much. Appreciate being invited on the program.
Good to have you here, and anytime, let us know what's happening. Mick Woodcock, Chief Curator, Sharlot Hall Museum. It's countywide. We'll see you next time.
This has been Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday as we tackle the hot topics and talk to the decision makers across Yavapai County. That's Countywide with Brad Miller and Paul David each Tuesday and Thursday on this Yavapai Broadcasting station.